You ask, we deliver. No need for a big introduction. We're going to do a deep dive into active recalling and spaced repetition. People in my following started asking me about this, and I don't care that I create the perfect video for the YouTube algorithm. I'm here to provide value to you. So if you stick around, you will learn how to apply active recall, how to apply spaced repetition. And if you don't know who I am, my name is Tom Vossel, also known as the Study Coach, and we help students and working professionals with science-backed learning, time management, mindfulness, and mindset methods to ace their academic and professional performance without burning out. Let's dive into today's topic, deep dive into active recall and spaced repetition. So what will we cover? We'll first cover why active recall and why it's important, how spaced repetition actually works, what counts as good active recall. We're going to build a schedule with both methods. Apologies that my face is in the way. And we're going to discuss common mistakes to avoid. So first of all, why active recall? Right? Learning. Your brain learns by trying to retrieve information, not by rereading. So if you are still rereading your notes, rereading your textbook over and over and over and hoping that it sticks, that is the problem right there. You need to start actively recalling information more often, and we'll shortly talk about different methods that you can apply. Secondly, there's this trap of recognition. Passive methods like rereading or highlighting create a false sense of mastery. What does that mean? You probably think while you're reading that slide again or while you're reading that book again, oh, I recognize this. And yes, your brain is great at recognizing information, but it doesn't mean that you actually know, understand, and you are able to apply the information. That's a whole different ballgame. So this is where you trick yourself. You make mistakes and you think, oh, all of these hours spent, you go to the exam and you fail, right? Active recall forces your brain to search, strengthen memory pathways. So therefore, it's a way more effective method. So once you are doing active recalling, you're strengthening your memory pathways, and it forces your brain to search and to recall, come up with the information. Research shows that students who are using active recall score significantly higher on exams, and there's a lot of proof for that. Also, the students that work inside of our programs use active recall. I'll give you a couple of examples real quick. So this is our folder where we collect student results. Passed the public health exam, got 100%. 100% for a group project, that's an assignment. 100% on a physics lab quiz, and an 88% on animal science. Finished the paper with 82. I'll be happy to know that I'm currently sitting at an A and only receiving positive feedback, and this person scored a 97.7. And all of these students, as you can see, they're working with us, they're applying active recall. So let this be proof that it works. And all of these students were first struggling and not knowing how to apply this. All right, so we're going to start small. And one method that you can apply, which is very easy, very straightforward, is that you close your book and you try to explain to yourself what you just read. And again, in like a couple minutes, we're going to dive into deeper and more effective active recalling methods. So the next thing that students often ask me is like, what is spaced repetition, right? So spaced repetition is an efficient way to study. So active recalling is more effective because it's literally strengthening your neural pathways every time that you recall the information. And spaced repetition is more efficient. So instead of cramming everything in 8 hours, you're going to spread it out over 8 times 1 hour or maybe 4 times 2 hours, and you're getting a better result. So it's more efficient. Every time you recall a fact just before forgetting, your memory gets stronger. And you do this with increasing intervals. So spaced repetition uses increasing time gaps, probably 1 day later, 3 days later, or 7 days later. And I'm going to shortly show you a visual such that you understand what I'm talking about. You want to beat the forgetting curve. So fight it by reviewing at just the right time. So what you will see in the visual real quick is that you are forgetting about 30 to 60% of information within a day and almost 80% of information within a week. So if you don't repeat at smart intervals, you're going to forget that information. You can use apps like the Study Coach AI tool, which automates your studying with spaced repetition and different active recalling methods. I can show you that in a second as well. And you don't have to review everything every day. You have to study in smart intervals. So what does the visual look like? As you can see here, you have repetition day 0. Within like an hour, you already forget a bunch. So that's when the first arrow points down. That's your first interval. And you see that over time, the curve flattens out. So you're less likely to forget the information, which indeed then yields better long-term retention. Okay, so what does that look like in a smart study tool? As you can see, it will here tell you when to repeat which lecture, lecture 4, lecture 8, and it does that over the previous weeks as well. So in the future with this AI tool, you're going to have pre-class preparation where we exactly walk you through what to do before class, then what to do after class, a day after class, following the spaced repetition system, and also even a week after class where we are providing you higher order thinking questions, which are different methods of active recalling. So you can use that as well. Now, what is good active recall? You have good flashcards are common, but teaching it out loud or answering open-ended questions or higher order thinking questions like I just showed you is even better. A lot of students stay stuck at this surface level learning with flashcards, which doesn't yield them the results that they are looking for. Retrieval practice works best when it's difficult but doable. So embrace the challenge. Don't run away when learning gets a bit difficult. That is actually your brain physically changing and creating the neural pathways such that you're learning the information better. Now, writing down what you remember without looking is stronger than trying to do multiple choice questions. So again, here, embrace the struggle. What happens when you answer multiple choice questions? Your brain sees the answers and then it probably recognizes 1 or 2 words, and then you might be able to guess the answer correct. But you don't want to rely on that because it is a very weak memory and it's not really knowing or mastering the information. This is a huge problem, okay? So avoid recognition, aim for recalling from scratch. Be able to recall information and answer open-ended questions. This is a huge problem. We call this the trap of recognition. So you want to switch it up, mix up questions with definitions, examples, applications, evaluation, analysis, etc. In our platform, we have more in-detail videos about how the brain works, how to prepare for class, what to do during class, active recalling explained, etc. So just drop a comment saying university. As you can see, it's called Study Coach University, and I'll send you the link to get access to that. Now, how do we build a schedule? From day 1 or day 0, actually, the day that you learn something new, you're going to do a same-day recall. And you're going to use a active recalling method. For example, on day 0, it's fine to do flashcards. On day 1, you're going to do your first review. This is probably the hardest one. So this is where you want to make it a bit more challenging by trying application questions or retrieval questions provided by the professor or in your workbook. Then 3 to 4 days later, you're going to reinforce it again. You're going to teach it to a classmate, identify your knowledge gaps, and then restudy that material. And then 7 days later, you're going to review it once more and then space it further out. And on this method, you're going to maybe try a practice exam question about the topic that you discussed in that earlier week. Don't be afraid to grab onto the exam practice questions earlier, such that you already know what my level of knowledge is and how I should move forward. You can again use tools like Notion, physical calendars, spaced repetition apps like we just showed. Most importantly is that you learn how to apply this yourself such that you don't always rely on such a system and you're always critically thinking yourself, what can I improve? What should I do differently? So lastly, some common mistakes. Too soon, reviewing too soon. Don't review what you already know too often. So if you have a topic that you feel very confident and easy with, don't just review that over and over and kind of like giving you the feeling like, oh yeah, I know this and I'm making good progress. You're just tricking yourself, you're fooling yourself, you're avoiding the topics that are actually hard. Not stick to one method. So the common mistake is that people do one method and they only use flashcards. So neglecting other recall formats, for example, the teaching, blurting, practice questions, simulation learning, reflective learning, mind maps, concept maps, avoiding all of them is holding you back from actually achieving the grades that you want because you're only challenging yourself on a very surface level of learning. Then poor planning. Most students don't adjust their schedule. They think one size fits all, and therefore they are not critically thinking about how much work they completed, what it looks like for them to move forward, and what they should change in their planning. And again, confusing recognition for mastery. I knew it was there when I saw it. You open the exam, you see question 3, and you think back, oh yeah, that was in my summary at page 2, but I don't remember anymore. That is the trap of recognition. You just recognize that your brain has processed that information, but you're unable to recall it. So not accepting the struggle, giving up too early, the real power shows after several rounds of the spaced repetition, including different active recalling methods. And if you're not accepting the struggle, then forget about learning, because learning is meant to be a little bit challenging. So quick summary, we talked about why active recalling is important, how spaced repetition works, what counts as good active recall, building a schedule with both methods so you switch it up, common mistakes to avoid. Again, if you want to get access to the AI tool and the platform that I just shared with you, comment the word university under this video and I'll share the link with you. Hope you have an amazing day, and I'm seeing you in the next video.